Every time I forget to take the title card off. Every time.
Yeah, we know.
I know. Unbelievable. I'm still thinking of poor old Timothy.
And Timothy, he's begging for his life.
Poor old Timothy. He was pleading for his life, you know. He was pleading for his life. But that was a very cheap episode to make, apparently. It cost £6. Anyway, anybody who's not watching The Boys,
can we move on, please? That was just no.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's interesting modelling company Sunday service. We have got a jam-packed. We call this one a donut because it's jam-packed tonight. We've got so many things to get through, but we're going to try and whiz through them as with a certain amount of brevity. So first things.
How does that normally work for us, Norm? How does brevity normally work for us?
First of all, Drew, how has your week been?
All right. Finished a model.
Well, so we're going to come to that in a minute. So
finished a model, started another. So I mean, overall, very relaxing weekend. I basically locked the door and saw nobody, which is always a plus. So no, all right.
So what have you started now?
Well, I have started. I fancied not a palette cleanser as such, but something nice and a nice quick build. So, a Gamma Goat.
Very good.
I've had that sitting around since it was released. I know Spencer built it when it was released, and I've had that. I just thought, I want to spray. I want to do a MERDC camouflage. You know, the 1980s US Army camouflage on something. And I thought that'd be a nice little project to do that camouflage on. So I've been basically sticking that together today, putting bits together. So I think a couple of evenings, another evening or two's work, and then we'll be ready to start throwing some paint on it, I think. So really nice, simple little kit. Typically Tamiya, so it just fits, doesn't it? It just goes together.
I seem to remember Spencer's assessment of it was he felt it almost looked like it was a kit that had been tooled up in the 80s, but then kind of held back and then released about 20 years later.
I don't know, but it's certainly it's got nice levels of detail on it, and it goes together in a typically Tamiya fashion. So I mean, I'm doing absolutely nothing extra to it. I'm not looking at any reference or anything. This is strictly a from the box build, just so that I can play with my airbrush a little bit and get some nice camouflage done. So that's basically that. What you're seeing there is an afternoon's worth of work. Started at about midday, and here we are, really. So that was just a nice, fun little build, isn't it? It was typically Tamiya. I think if I'm right, it's the last Tamiya kit I actually bought as well. Yeah.
It's throwing me some shade there.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't intended to throw you any shade, but I think it was.
Jim Altergott says Independence Day weekend over here in the colonies. Excellent. Just try not to be invaded by aliens. That's all,
Well,
I saw that documentary. It looked quite terrifying.
We make no promises, do we?
We live in hope, actually.
Don't mention aliens.
Right. So what we'll do is we'll go on to what you finished this week. Then we'll go on to the news. But you this week have managed to finish your.
Yes. Finished well. I mean, I started the goat at midday, so I finished that at about 11 this morning.
So that's the Eduard CS199.
Eduard CS199. Yeah, more or less. You know, the only additions that aren't in the box are a Albion Alloys Pitot that I made, and I'm just looking, and there's a great big. I'm just noticing that great big stain of oil paint on the drop tank there, which this photograph has nicely thrown up. So if you want to switch to the top view of me a second. That's
oh yes, look at that. That's absolutely magnificent. And of course, this is the beauty of using lacquer paint.
Lacquer paint and then oil paint on top. So a little bit of odorless thinner. Some happy little Bob Ross thinner there. Mm-hmm. With a cotton bud, and that's that problem done. That's that problem dealt with. So yeah, this is I don't know what I've been on this for, like 10 days or so, I suppose. I've been on this, it's fantastic. What a fabulous little model, 72nd scale model.
And these are the kit decals. We were talking about this during the week and wondering how they were going to fare, but you think they're passable?
I still like. I mean, even on that photograph there, you can see some of this kind of artifacting around the blue and the red on the national insignia there.
Yeah,
almost like a incomplete screen print.
Yes.
Which is really annoying, but from any distance it doesn't really show up too badly. So I think there's still definitely room for improvement in the printing quality.
Yeah.
But that said, they were very, very thin and they went down very nicely, and I was able to peel the carrier film off of every marking without any trouble whatsoever.
Right.
So that I think there have been definite improvements in the production. That the varnish isn't as wavy as it once was, and in fact, when I applied the decals to this model and let them dry, bearing in mind it was on a silver finish, you really struggled to see the carrier film. Mm-hmm. So that they've made very, very definite improvements in the printing, shall we say, the actual carrier film. Mm-hmm. But the actual printing, the reds and the blues and stuff, that still needs work, I think. The white and the black, well, they're white and black. They're very, very dense, very nice, no problems at all. But yeah, overall, I mean, the build was flawless, as you pretty much expect an Eduard kit to be these days. It's what you mean. It's 72nd scale, so it's a tiny little model.
Of course, the irony is that if had Eduard given us beautifully kind of cartographed screen printed decals for those check markings, modelers would have then gone to great details with oil paint dots and fading to make the roundel colours slightly more faded and less than perfect. So
yeah, I mean,
they don't stand out. Let's put it this way: it's not like their VEB plastic art decals from 40 odd years ago or so.
No, and if I'm honest, looking at it in the flesh here now with the model in front of me, it's not as obvious as it is on a photograph. Where if you're even on like my little 24-inch screen that I'm using here in my model room to view this, you know, the model is probably 3 times bigger on the screen than it is in real life with me holding it in my hand. Mm-hmm. So it's, you know, those sorts of things look a lot more obvious perhaps on the screen than they do in real life. Mm-hmm. But I mean, as a kit, I can't recommend it highly enough. Pretty much, I'm trying to think of anywhere I used any filler on this model, and I think there was a tiny bit in front of the windscreen, which was a little bit of super glue and talc, and a little bit along the leading edge of one of the wings. where it perhaps didn't. Oh, on the vertical tail, but we're talking, a drop of super glue run into the gap and then sanded through. It was just, not almost a non-issue, and something you could get around quite easily with just a little bit more prep than I did.
And your favoured silver of choice there
is LP11. To me, is LP11 lacquer. Basically, it's bare metal. It's our AS12 bare metal silver in pot form, and that's just thinned with Tamiya's own lacquer thinner.
To what ratio?
John, I had no idea, just till it sprayed. I kind of have this discussion quite often about, pressure, what pressure and what thinning ratio, and it's like, I don't know. I thin it to a ratio, and if it doesn't spray right, the first thing I do is turn the pressure up a bit or down a bit, depending. And then if that still doesn't work, then I add more thinner or whatever. It's not. But because most airbrushes now have MAC valves built in, it's really difficult to sort of discuss pressures and thinning ratios these days, because you kind of adjust on the fly almost. But yeah, I mean, it was a thoroughly enjoyable build, and that main canopy there is just dropped in place with a tiny little dab of PVA at the front and the back, and that's just dropped into place. Really odd canopy setup, because the center portion is fixed, the front part slides under the center portion, and the front slides over the center portion. So they do include an open canopy part, which is basically one part, just representing the forward portion slid under, because I was looking at it and thinking, oh my word, the rear canopy fits awfully. Look at that ledge. And then I kind of looked at it again and went, hang on. Now I get it. I believe I'm right. Somebody said this was the canopy is from were from AR-196s, that German trainer.
Yep.
That's where the canopies for these were taken from, because they built those in Czechoslovakia as well. So Dan Wood there is saying, how did I do the chipping on the spinner? Dan, basically that was a coat of the bare metal silver LP11, and when that was dry, that was oversprayed with Mr. Color number 40, which is what they call German grey, but as you can see there, it's practically black. And then just a number 11 knife blade was just gently used to scrape some of it away through to the silver till I was kind of thought it looked close enough to what I was after. In total about 2 minutes work. Just some very, very small chips done with the number 11 blade. So that was all that was. But yeah, I mean, I've got some of the I've got the dual boxing of the S199 single seater, which won't be long before I start that based on this. What a fantastic little model. So yeah, buy with confidence, I would say.
Well, here's the thing. I just go solo screen for a second, and I mentioned this the other day. My much loved copy of How to Go Plastic Modeling by Chris Ellis. Although it's probably looks like it's back to front on the screen there. How weird.
Yeah.
Let me just oh blimey. I knew this was gonna happen. Flip horizontal. There we go. Huh?
How did you manage that?
It just went weird in what's its name for a second there in oh goodness me, what's the name of the
OBS?
OBS, yeah, OBS Studio. It went funny there. So this epic book here by Chris Ellis, my modeling Bible. This is actually this is not the actual copy, but this is the actual edition I borrowed from the school library in 1978 when I started secondary school, and then had it on loan right up until I left secondary school in the sixth form in 1985. So I had to go and get my own copy in the end. They asked for it back, which was a shame. But yeah, honestly, this book in 1978 to find a whole book devoted to modelling was just like, you know, as the saying goes, mind blown. But here we go. Look, on page 121, there are some photographs here of Chris's conversion of the Airfix 109G. And he did two conversions, one into an S199 there, and the other one into a CS199 down there. And, you know, as a kid, I remember thinking, wow, that's kind of like, you know, quite advanced conversion work.
Level stuff, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Next level stuff.
Next level stuff. I think these days we can probably look at it and think, well, it looks a little bit crude, you know, and we can pick fault with it. But I've got to say, that doesn't look too bad.
It's just it's of its time, isn't it? It's just, you know, we kind of we forget the kind of revolution in research that happened in the 80s, 90s, and through to now, you know, and it was a genuine revolution, wasn't it? You know, all of the, you know, just about every single presumption made about, you know, certainly German aircraft, you know, from the end of the war up until sort of probably the late 70s into early 80s was turned on its head in a very, very few years. And since then we've had sort of very small sort of developments on that information, but there was a complete revolution in this sort of information.
I will quickly read to you one of the it's from the conversion article itself. Here we go. Czechoslovak Avia built Messerschmitts. In order to get the shape of the nose, you know, try and convert the shape of the nose, I do believe that Chris used I think he used a road wheel or something from a Tiger tank. I'm just having a look. Oh, I probably got that wrong actually, but yeah, he used something to make the nose change the shape of the nose, and then kind of, you know, use putty and everything to change the actual profile and stuff. He used a P51D canopy for the S199. I'm sure he used a Tiger tank wheel on there, or am I imagining it? Probably not. Anyway, there you go. But yeah, that's absolutely kind of pioneering stuff, that was. And yeah, fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Yeah, the canopy for the two-seater he made with polyglaze, would you believe?
Which is what? What's polyglaze?
Yeah, polyglaze. That's just plastic, you know, clear plastic sheet. So
oh right, okay.
That's you know, that's quite oh, there it is. That's quite an advanced thing to do. But yeah, looking at this as a kid, I just thought, no way I could ever do a conversion like that. But yeah, absolutely top class book, that. And of course I was very lucky, very, very lucky to have Chris do my intro for my book. So passing the torch, so to speak, was just as well, because so much of my book kind of homage to a lot of what he wrote, because there was no way around it. It was kind of, we were covering the same subjects, and it's like, do you know what? The only way you can do this is to literally go the route Chris went. So I had a word with him.
So what we're saying, dear reader, is that Chris Ellis didn't build a single model for John's book and still got a mention.
I wasn't in charge of the editing. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, shall we move on? You know, do you want to go to the bathroom and rinse that bitter taste from your mouth? Really?
No, I've been savouring it for a decade.
I've got you giving me earache here. I've got this lumpen feline mass giving me a dead leg here. Not dead ear, dead leg. Goodness me. I just want a simple life. Right. Shall we talk about this?
Oh.
In fact, we'll get rid of that because we don't want that. Options. That's our little chat there. Close all chats. There we go. Yeah, this is Eduard's.
More Eduard goodness.
48 scale F4 F3, which is a non-folding wing or a fixed wing Wildcat. Now there have been 48 scale there was a 48 scale F4 F4 from Tamiya. There have been 48 scale Wildcats from Hobby Boss, which are of varying levels of accuracy / acceptability. But now we've got this from Eduard, which is a fixed wing F4 F3. Do you know what? I think this looks gorgeous.
Oh, well, it clearly does. It just, you know, look at that. Look, just, you know, it. You're kind of reaching this. The Eduard are almost like Tamiya these days, in that you kind of run out of superlatives so fast that it's like, you know, what can you say? It's like,
I was just going to say, would you like a larger shovel to heap on these superlatives?
Yeah, it's like it's a new Eduard kit. What, you know, you're immediately out of superlatives to talk about, and I will say it, to talk about the plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks, you know, it just looks utterly remarkable, doesn't it?
You're almost looking for. It sounds very negative, and I don't like to do this, but it's almost like you're suddenly trying to kind of like, you know, that it's all going to be so good, you're trying to find the flaw.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, very much so, very much so. You know, it's like, you know, you turn into the kit building equivalent of the penlight police at a model competition.
Yeah, so you become that guy or girl.
You become that guy because everything's so good. You're looking for some tiny little flaw to, you know, well, somebody will find some tiny little flaw to pillory the kit, rather than just going, you know, oh well, that's not exactly right, is it? But
I've already seen some comments to the effect about the people complaining about the matchbox-like trench-like surface, and it's like, oh, for goodness sake, really?
Where?
Oh, it was on some place.
No, I mean, where is the trench-like surface? Because I haven't.
Well, they're talking about the panel lines and saying that they're massively out of scale, and the rivet fastener detail is you know, massively out of scale. And I just think, well, okay, fair enough. I tell you what, champ, you go and sit in the corner and pine for the perfect kit, and I'll build this and enjoy it. You know, so
it just looks the detail on the filler caps there.
Oh, yeah, so yeah, I know it's absolutely insane. And I you know, I love the Wildcat. The Wildcat is one of those formative experiences for me, from going to a model show in Woking with my mum. Hello, mum. And I picked up a free IPMS magazine there, which had an article on Fleet Air Arm Martlets. And that was my introduction to the Wildcat / Martlet. So it's always been an aircraft that I, you know, have a great deal of affection for. And obviously we've got one here in Somerset. Lucky old us. You know, so yeah,
there was two different rudders there. Was that both styles of they're different rudders? I think that's the FM2 and the F4 F3 4 rudder there.
Yes, I think you're right. That is, unless that's unless that's the tail planes.
No. Those they're the rudders. That's the rudders.
Yeah. In fact, you look at those rudders; they appear to have. I don't know how Eduard have done that.
They're slide hollow molded, aren't they?
Yeah, molded. The bottom's hollow.
Well, it's just like it's the same as their Tempest. The Tempest's done like that.
Right. Yeah, there's lots of pictures here, folks. So bear with us as we cycle through them. Literally cycle there with the little chains.
Those chains.
Yeah. They have done something that Tamiya didn't get quite right in their kit, and they've realised that the cockpit, there is no cockpit floor on the Wildcat. There are the duck boards for the rudder pedals, but beyond that, you're looking down into the belly of the beast. So they've managed to get that right. What can I say? What can I say except go, God, doesn't that look gorgeous? Doesn't that look gorgeous? You know, it's
yeah, like you say, you know, to find something of any note to fault, you know, you have to become that guy, don't you? Unless there's some egregious accuracy error that's really obvious, and I mean, I'm certainly not seeing any. There's 3 different cowlings there. Look,
I was just going to say there are different cowl patterns there with the different flap configurations. There's also 2 cowling mouths as well.
No, 3.
3 cowling mouths. I can't see. Where's the third one? There's at the top there. Yes. I see it now. Yeah, at the top there. So yeah, they clearly are going to cover multiple variants here. Yeah, there we go. There's that top one. Just hurry up and release it, Eduard. Come on. I think they're saying October or something.
I thought it was August.
August, sorry, August. Yeah. So, that's actually just whizzing back there. That's quite nice. I do like it when kit companies do their instrument panels with completely kind of like flat bezels, so that you can, add your own decals and glaze them. Or, I think the days of molded dial details are probably now a thing of the past. But
yeah. Dave Fleming there saying, be interesting to see if they do the right engine ones as well. Dave, I believe they've said currently there are no plans to do the right engine ones. I think they said it was just a rabbit hole too far doing the right engine ones. So that's as it stands at the moment, because you need completely new fuselage halves and stuff for it. Which is not something that Eduard have ever been afraid of doing. But they've said at the moment it's a bit of a rabbit hole too far for them. So
there we go. There's all your different cowl configurations. So you've got single flap and multiple flap there. So that's kind of like that's F4, F3 and F4, F4. I wonder actually if that also incorporates. I'll have to check my references to see if that also incorporates the early non-folding winged ones. I think it's the G38 that the French used, the one that's at Yeovilton. Yeah. And there's two more examples of the different cowls there, and there's the third example. Different engine magnetos and bosses there. Yeah, we can just say fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Just have a stream of smiley faces going across the screen.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's just remarkable, isn't it? It's and there's 4 different windscreens there at least. 4 different windscreens. Obviously a slid back and a closed canopy option there.
Gun sight looks like light fittings.
Telescopic sight there as well.
Telescopic sight. Do you know what? I look at this and I think to myself, really nice if Eduard did this kind of attention to detail to something like, I don't know, Brewster Buffalo.
Yes, yeah. I mean, they've said they're planning to do, basically, they do have long-term plans for the US Navy from World War II. So at some point, clearly they've done the Hellcat, they're doing the Wildcat, there'll be a Corsair to come along at some point, you'd assume. And if they're serious, a Buffalo.
We'll just quickly cycle through these first few pictures again, just to kind of like.
I've seen a few people have said, have they got the clinker built rear fuselage like the real thing? And I'm like, well, they managed it 14 years ago on the Hellcat, so I can't see they're going to miss it.
No, exactly.
On the Wildcat.
Actually, Drew, no, I don't think. I think that. I think what we're looking at. I'll just zoom in a bit. I think what we're looking at here. I think those are the.
No, that's the elevators.
Yeah, that's the elevators. That's not the rudders. Yeah. That's the elevators.
Yeah, and then the next up is the rudders. 2 rudders.
So I'm not seeing any FM2 stuff here. This is all.
Yeah, that rudder on the right hand side is an FM2 rudder. That one. No, next one. That one. It's visibly taller with a thinner top.
Okay. I can't. I'm getting my variants mixed up here. Never mind. That's not the first time I get confused. Let me just cycle through these. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm with you now. Yep, I'm with you. I need to do a crash course in Wildcats again. But yeah, absolutely fabulous. I mean, Eduard, that this is going to run and run and run. They're going to be doing Royal Navy martlets. They'll be doing US Navy. They'll ring this for as much as they can, and quite right as well.
I mean, Dave says FM2 is right engine. Yeah, you're right, Dave, but that will require new fuselage halves anyway. So what I'm saying is they're not. They said they're not going to do right-engined FM1 like F4, F3, 4 variants.
Yeah. But no, absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait for that. I shall be throwing money, whichever of my favourite retailers can get one of those in. I'll be throwing money at them at some stage because that just looks absolutely drop dead gorgeous.
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as I can get my hands on one of those, I will be getting one. ASAP.
I'm just trying to think what scheme would I do? What scheme would I do? I actually quite fancy one of the Royal Navy ones that are in the Western Desert.
Yeah.
A bit different.
I mean, like you say, you kind of. I mean, given a choice, I would like to do one of the extra dark sea green and blue ones. Like the one at Yeovilton. But then you're into sort of, that they ex-French G38, G39s and stuff like that. So potentially, I don't think you can from this kit. But I really don't know the early Wildcats that well, if you like. 3s, 4s, and 5s, I know. I'm
just looking over there to see if my Wildcat article from that IPMS magazine is to hand. It isn't, but
it was very interesting listening to a couple of books about the Pacific War. The F4 when that entered service, so that had the folding wings, the extra 2 guns. It wasn't as popular as you'd expect. Sort of a 50% increase in firepower to make an aircraft. The people who are good shots were saying, well, if you're not going to hit an aircraft with 450s, you're not going to hit an aircraft with 650s. So it made absolutely no difference and just added weight. So it was very interesting that a lot of them thought the F4, F3 was the best of the bunch. Because it was
interesting comment here from James. This has piqued my interest. He says, saw the strangest thing today. My wife, I don't think she's strange, James. Oh, sorry. My wife was watching an old movie on Netflix, 1954. In one scene, a body was discovered clutching a model aircraft. At first, it looked like a TSR-2 until I looked more closely, and I swear it looked like a Super Hornet. Weirdest thing. James, if you can find out what the name of that movie is, I'll look into that. That does sound rather interesting, because I tell you what, there is a scene in the Hammer 1967 film, Quatermass and the Pit, and when they're in Professor Quatermass's rocket office, and there are some models on the desk in front of them, and the models are, would you believe, a repurposed Thunderbird 1 and also a Thunderbird 4 as well. And these were obviously original studio models from the series that were just probably picked out of a skip somewhere and then just repainted and re-thinking. I look at it and I think those are like historical artifacts, and they're just like no. In fact, we're going to go off on a side tangent here for a moment. You know us. I've been following a thread on another Facebook group where somebody managed to find, and it was in a shed somewhere, a maths teacher's shed. It was the Ares shuttle from 2001. You know, the round one?
Yeah.
You probably fell asleep at that stage, Drew, because the film isn't the sum of its parts, apparently.
No, it clearly isn't. I mean, that was still the interesting bit where stuff's actually happening.
Right, but it's the one that's the sphere, and it kind of like it comes in and lands anyway. Anyway, somebody found or managed to save the original filming miniature of that, and you know what? It's big. It's when we talk about bigatures this day, but But then everything in that film looks like real. There we go. James Ray says the Tech Man mystery. I'm going to look into that. That sounds absolutely fascinating. Tony Sturridge rather says, why did Eduard stop making armor kits?
I think, like Pavu says, they never actually made any of their own tools. They were all Reeboxes, I think.
Yeah.
I think probably it's just the armor market has been saturated in such a way in recent years. More so even than the aircraft market. It's just been so saturated with, especially German armor.
Dave Fleming says French and Martlet 1 were right-engined. In that case, then aftermarket to the rescue. I think that's going to be. Well, do you know what? I would not be surprised if Eduard actually put out a resin right engine.
Well, you need an entirely new front fuselage. That's why Airfix had to have that sort of that modification for their one, where you had to add that shimming and stuff. You know, Stan gets it. Stan gets it.
I'm with Drew. Worst movie I ever watched. What film was that then?
2001.
Oh, for God's sake! Well, that's the end of the show for tonight, folks. End of the program. Full stop. You know what you say. You can take a horse to water, but you can't something rather. I don't know what it was. Right, we will move on swiftly before I get very angry. Now, this is a new announcement this week. This is from IBG, and this obviously piques my interest because it's in 1/35th scale, and it is yet another Panzer II variant. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will probably notice that the kind of the running gear is more like a very early Panzer I, and that's because these are tries to get his thing back up again. There we go. This is the Panzer II A1/A2/A3 and B, and this is you'd think all the Panzer II variants have been touched on upon the years, but no, they haven't. And so IBG are doing this one, which for somebody like me who likes their Panzer I/Panzer II variants, I am cock a hoop. I'm over the moon. I'm big cheesy grin on my face.
It's a cute little tank, isn't it?
Yeah, and I also like these Polish campaign markings as well. They do. I know Eduard have boxed. I think IBG have done this in 72nd scale, but they've now kind of moved up to 35th scale with this one. So yeah, I am greatly interested in seeing this. I just think, as I say, I think the Panzer I and the Panzer II are a fascinating series of vehicles, and you could easily build any number of variants and sub-variants and never quite build the same model twice. I know you're a bit ambivalent about.
I think they're, and we discussed the fact that I quite like the grey and dark brown early schemes, don't I?
In fact, you've just reminded me. It was Tacom who did a dual boxing of the Panzer I Ausf A and B, so you could do both versions in both. I think it's two kits in one box. I am going to try and get hold of one of them at one stage, and then we'll divvy it up because, again, that's a vehicle, a family of vehicles that I like immensely. But yeah, I am.
That's a cute little model. I do. It doesn't appeal to me as a subject that I'd want to build, but it's a nice looking little kit. And I always remember that 1/16 scale one that Miguel Jimenez did on the acrylic weathering thing.
Was that one? That was 1/24th.
I thought it was 1/24th.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it was bigger than 1/35th.
Yeah, it was the 1/24th. Goodness me, I'm trying to think what the kit was. But yeah, that was such a massively influential video. I might actually pop that on during the week when I have my lunch and watch it again because it's such a great. So many bits in that.
Back to a previous subject a second. No, Dave, I'd watch Silent Running 100 times before I watch 2001 again. You're wrong. Silent Running is awesome.
Yeah, we're obviously going to have a word with Dave when we catch up with him, because Dave's just wrong, really. What can we say?
Dave's just wrong, really.
We've suddenly gone off on a tangent about science fiction films now. I saw it in the 60s when it released. I thought it was going to be like Star Trek, yet to meet anyone that can explain it to me. Well, very easy, Stan. You see, aliens every now and then seed a certain amount of knowledge in order to kind of like move humankind along to the next stage of their evolution. So they kind of give the apes the ability to make hand tools or weapons and things, and that's the next evolutionary stage. And then you just jump forwards to modern man in the 21st century, and then they kind of they
and
shaped
then they gave us jump forward to Modern Man, and they gave us Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there we go. And also, also the idea that 2001 was going to be like Star Trek. Well, the irony was that 10 years later, Star Trek: The Motion Picture thought it was 2001. It's kind of what comes around goes around.
Yeah, equally dense and impenetrable.
Whoa. Don't.
I do quite. I mean, I quite like it. I quite like it in its own right. But it is dense and
right. Less of the Star Trek dissing, if you don't mind. Star Trek: The Motion Picture dissing. We'll do a Star Trek episode at some stage because we might talk about Star Trek kits. That would be exciting. Powell says he says the Panzer 1 and 2 chassis saw a long service life. Sorry, that's Jim rather. Saw a long service as the war progressed. Powell says this Panzer 2 should actually be painted in grey and brown camo. Well, we'll come to that as and when the kit gets released. But that's that scheme you said you like, that kind of grey and brown.
I do.
Scheme. Yeah. John Connolly says, "Hello guys, what's the verdict on the Hobby Boss Wildcats? I know the Hellcats were bad around the cockpit. I've seen people say that there are some shape-ish errors with the Hobby Boss Wildcats in 48 scale. Some of them don't look as bad to me as people claim, but then sometimes I think sometimes if people get bits out of whack, especially windscreens and things, it does throw the look of the kit.
I haven't heard any egregious problems with them. Let's put it that way. Certainly not like I've heard with the Hellcats, which are visibly balked around the cockpit area. But again, it's like, for if you live in Europe or probably the United States, with the Eduard one being available, there's
my friend built that IBG test shot. Lucky old friend of Powell, really. But we're not finished. We're not finished. Well, you and I finished, Drew. I think we were finished once we got past 30. Quite frankly,
very much so.
Exactly. But we're not finished with early Panzers tonight because hot on the heels of Wednesday when we showed you Tacom's Panzer 1 tank destroyer. Self-propelled gun. This has now been announced, and this is their Panzerbefehlswagen 1, and this is a 3-in-1 kit. And let's put it this way: if I was thinking to myself, I was going to jump on the 1/16 scale kind of bandwagon with that other vehicle the other night. Then this one comes along, and no, this is the one I would dearly like to build in a much larger scale, because I just this goes back to the Eschi kit in the 70s and 80s in 72nd scale, and I just remember being drawn to the box art for the Eschi kit because it just looked like a really unusual vehicle, and I actually managed to build that kit in the end. Right, I think it was about 1987. I've built the little S model kits of this, which are utterly gorgeous. They really are terrific. And I've got I think I've either got the Dragon or the Italeri kit of this as well. And of course, Spencer, most famously, has got Verlinden's actual 35th scale model of this, which he restored and placed into a Verlinden-esque diorama, which I think Spencer says that's the thing that started off his whole Legacy project series. But like I say, last week, this would be the vehicle to make me want to jump into build a one-off 1/16 scale. And it looks like it comes with a very nice sculpted figure by Jason. And actually, that box art, when you actually see that box art in kind of high definition, if you were to take out all the branding and replace the branding with Tamiya, it's a very Tamiya piece of box art.
Yeah.
The figure, especially, it has all those kind of facial quirks and things that you see in the box artist for Tamiya. But it seems Jason is a talented lad because he does sculpting and he does painting as well. But I love these vehicles. Like I say, I love the Panzer 1 and the Panzer 2 family. So on top of the already impossible list of things that I'd like to build, add this one because, yeah, I think that would be tremendous fun to build that, and just building something madly large and out of my comfort zone.
The Germans just seem to have thousands of these things early on in the war, and they just all look like you could throw a dart through them.
They did, but they proved to be very effective because they were fast, and especially if you were kind of like without wishing to overly simplify the situation, if it was tanks against horses,
yeah,
in many instances, I'm really kind of big thumbs up from me. So what can we say?
Like we said the other day, that'd be about the size of a 35th scale Leopard 2.
Yeah, it's
so
it's not going to be. It's going to be smaller than that book.
Yeah,
probably a little bit shorter in length and certainly shorter in width, but not a massively large model. So
James Ray's back. Look, panic over. It's a javelin in that film.
Right. Okay. A javelin.
There we go.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I'll have to look into that. I'll try and dig out those pictures from Quatermass because that's quite funny. Because I was watching it and I suddenly went. I've seen it so many times. I've even watched it with you a couple of times, and then I suddenly looked at it and I thought, that's Thunderbird 1 there. It's like
I like the Quatermass films because they're genuinely creepy.
Quatermass and the Pit is
it's a really creepy film.
That is, especially if you've kind of like been on the London Underground. That is genuine. We reached that time of the night, 10 minutes to go to the end of the show, and we're off on a tangent already. But yeah, anybody who's never seen Quatermass and the Pit, essentially it starts off with skulls being found in the London Underground, and then they discover a large metallic object, but they discover that such skulls are actually underneath and inside the metallic object, and then it all goes super weird towards the end. Super weird, creepy towards the end. Andrew Keir, absolutely brilliant, and Julian Glover,
properly unsettling moments in that.
Really,
and use of sound.
Oh, that honestly, that kind of like boom, 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 that kind of like that noise. Having said that, welcome to Film Club, everybody. Having said that, when I watched the final John Mills Quatermass serial on, it was on television a couple of years ago, right when we started the pandemic, and I sat there and I thought, well, blimey, if this already wasn't kind of like starting to edge towards prescience and relevance, it was completely on the nose. It really was. And the funny thing is, a lot of people criticised Nigel Neal in the late 70s because the eponymous Planet people in the series were they were supposed to be punks, but people said, the television series is dated because it had hippies, and this was the late 70s and punk had come along. But then literally within about 3 years of Quatermass being on television, what followed that? The New Age movement. And New Age travellers having their heads bashed in by cops with riot shields round about stone circles and things. And that's exactly what happens in Quatermass. And it's like, anyway, fabulous stuff. We will have a film episode at some stage. We'll have a film episode with some modelling in it. Why not? But 50. James says 50 million miles to Earth was what it was called in the States. And Jim says also typical upright British general trying to convince everyone it is a German bomb from World War II. Yeah, Julian Glover, I do believe, who was General Veers in The Empire Strikes Back. We've run out of stuff for the show tonight. Right, folks, throw your questions at it. Actually, here's a good one for Dave. Dave says a 1/16 scale Vesp. Wouldn't say no to that, Dave. That would be rather nice, actually. Again, that was one of my formative modelling experiences back in the early 70s. Was I got the Eschi 72nd scale kit of the Vesp, and somewhere in a biscuit tin somewhere, I've still got the little bit of the hole left from that. That's got the Eschi stamp on it. What can I say? Never built the Matchbox one though, but
I think I built the Matchbox one back when I was
I never
much.
built the Matchbox. I've got one, but I've never built it.
I couldn't
So-
tell you a single thing about it. It was so long ago. It was over 40 years ago. But
Comes with a palm tree.
yes, yeah. But yeah, I built a lot of those when I was very, very young, but I don't really remember any of them except for the Sherman Firefly.
Sherman Firefly's a lovely kit.
Yeah.
I
There
really
you go,
would like-
Dave. Matchbox Vest was my first AFV.
Right. Okay. Fill in, Drew. I'm just looking up something on
What are you looking at? I mean, Jim says, frankly, 1/16 scale should only feature small to medium vehicles. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, stuff like we've seen there, like that, that Panzer I and stuff, and the Panzer II, they're perfect for, if you're going to do a modern subject, I would say, a Scorpion, Scimitar, or Sabre would be fabulous in 1/16 scale, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't disagree. Once you start getting into main battle tank territory, we've all seen the size of those Tamiya 1/16 scale Leopards and Abrams, and they're gigantic, aren't they? When you think that's twice the size in all directions of a 35th scale kit, it's
But they also
when you say something's twice as big, you don't really appreciate what twice as big means. Well, when you say 32nd scale kit is, 32nd scale Spitfire is, a bit bigger than twice the size of a 72nd scale one. You don't really appreciate what that means till you hold it and realize that's in every direction. Mike, Eduard have said that's what they've said they're planning to do. US Navy aircraft. So I mean, quite personally, I'm hoping that when the Corsairs start turning up, they start with an F4U4 because that's still criminally underrepresented in 48th in recent years. So, but being as it's Eduard, we've got years to worry about this sort of thing.
Has anybody actually done? No, Hasegawa, haven't they? They've done the F4U7.
Yes, Hasegawa did F4U5, F4U7, and a U1 in about 2002, 2003.
Again, goes back to that IPMS magazine article. I'm going to go and get that magazine because I'm going to share it with you all at the end of the show. There was an article in that on French Corsairs. So bear with me whilst I make a horrible noise and rush off to get my IPMS magazine.
Do you know where it is?
Yeah, I know where it is.
He always says this. He'll be back. He'll be back on Wednesday.
Yeah, see you next week, folks. Oh, goodness me.
So I have absolutely zero control over this. So I'm just looking at the comments now. Originally, Quatermass in the Pit was broadcast live on the BBC. Didn't actually realise that, but it was like I say, it's an incredibly unsettling film. I find just for the soundscapes in it as much as anything.
Yep. Oh yes. It genuinely is. Actually, the original television version with Andre Morel, that's got its moments. But I think the film improves by chopping out a lot of the kind of like the filler from the television version. Right, look at this, folks. How about that for organisation? This is my Wildcat folder. In fact, you'll probably see it says there Grumman Wildcat. But yeah, there it is, right at the top of the Grumman Wildcat folder. And this was, like I say, I got this from a model show in Wokingham in 1970, either 72 or 73. This was actually produced in 1972 because if we have a look inside there, it says at the bottom there, IPMS Committee 1972. Obviously, the covers come off and everything. Look, some new Airfix kits from that year. Awesome. I built that one. But yeah, it's essentially what this was. Look, talk about formative experiences here. Look at this. A Harrier for the US Marine Corps, which was by Jim Beeman of IPMS USA. And Jim explains how to accurize the Hasegawa kit Harrier AV8A/Harrier GR1 kit. Although he does say use the Airfix stabilizers as they're better, and also rob the Airfix kits of stores. But it's all stuff like this, just telling you how to add details and bits and pieces, and it's all kind of like noted here. This is absolutely fabulous stuff. I mean, I was 5 or 6 when I got hold of this, and this just blew my mind that there was more to this hobby than just sticking something together, 5 minutes before, 25 minutes before Doctor Who came on. And then just here, this is straight off of the model decal sheet. Dick Ward, a man I ended up working with, and on Harriers, and in fact on these Harriers as well, artwork on these Harriers. But yeah, and again, a formative experience for me, because this was my introduction to Dick Ward's artwork, and yeah, that's a really weird story, because Dick lived down the road at Farnborough, and he attended the model show at Wokingham. So the chances are that whilst I was at that show with my mother and picking up this copy of this free magazine, Dick would have been at that show. May even have been the IPMS representative who handed me that magazine. That's the story I'm going to tell from here on in. Conversion there of the Fujimi KV1 in '76, which again, these are all articles from different chapters around the world, beautifully illustrated. I mean, goodness me, we don't see this kind of level of drawing work in model magazines these days, do we, Drew?
No, well, we don't. No,
I think photography's.
not at all.
There we go. Look at this. Martlet in Fleet Air Arm Service by Wesley Moore. There's a few blips in here in terms of accuracy, kind of like accuracy and stuff. But other than that, I do like that overall Azure Blue Martlet 3.
And they've covered that top of that page. They've covered the differences between the engines, haven't they?
Yep. So Martlet 1, Martlet 2, F4, F4s, Martlet 3s, Martlet 4s, Martlet 5s, and then there's a general kind of blurby historical thing there, and some nice photographs. In fact, this one's quite interesting because it's actually got like a scalloped. Let me zoom in there. We'll probably find out the story of this one, but if you can see, it's got kind of like a scalloped.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, Dave, who's watching, he actually highlighted to me some pictures of some desert martlets, British desert martlets, and we were trying to work out what was going on with the colours, because they're all supposed to be the same colour, but some of the roundels in the black and white photographs had different tonal values, and it wasn't to do with ortho film, because the ones in the disc, the ones right up next to the close to the camera, were shot. It was shot with panchromatic film. So, yeah, weird. Orca Siddeley 125, awesome. Again, the Comet, that was my introduction to the Comet. And this was to do with scratch building the shoe schlepper, which you eventually got with the Helikit. And I did a conversion of that. That's the 109 that I built back in 1987, and that's still in the cabinet outside. And that was the first model that I used my Badger 200 airbrush on back in '87. Absolutely fabulous. Really good stuff. And then, here we go. A page of French Corsairs.
4U7s and I think AU1s are used as well.
Yeah. It's just, again, it's just fabulous stuff, because even though they couldn't actually print in color back then, what they could do is give you illustrations and actually just tell you what all the colors are. And even today, this is top dollar reference, so should French Corsairs ever cross my cross my field of work, I've got plenty of refs there to kind of lift me off the ground. Albion Refueler, which is a nice article on super detailing cars as well, and then a nice thing there on Luftwaffe uniforms, which again is good solid reference. Hey, how about that, Drew? Green intruders.
Camouflage intruders.
And then infantry, and there we go. And the last one, excuse me. Oh God, dearie me. Goodness me. And the last one, which is 616 Squadron Meteors, F1s and F3s. this came in immensely useful about 20 odd years ago when I updated the artwork for the Airfix Meteor. So,
am I right in thinking that's actually a couple of years before the Airfix kit was even released?
No, this was after. The Airfix kit, I think, was 1970.
I thought the Airfix kit was about 75. All right. Okay.
We can settle that argument in a minute.
It's not an argument. I'm quite happy to. I'm quite happy to go with your time. I thought it was later, but
I built the Airfix Meteor round about. I built the Airfix Meteor around about 1974-ish. In fact, I built it not long after I got this copy of the magazine. But I'm just going to go through the. Do you know what? Do you know what? I get the feeling, Drewe. Actually, get the humble pie out. Oh no! Here we go. 1970, the Airfix Meteor came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I built that a few times. Fabulous kit.
Yeah, I think I built it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's the thing is, but anyway, there you go. That's they are literally going to bury me with that magazine because that is one of my most prized possessions. Not only for the reference material, but also the memories and the moment in my life that it represents. Because this magazine pretty much was part of a series of things which actually shaped where I am now. So, you know, a man with sciatic problems in his 50s. So,
I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say that.
I beat you to it. But yeah, that was he's back. Oh, hang about. There we go. That was about 1973. I think that was Wokingham Town Hall.
So 50 years old, nearly. 49 years old.
Thanks a bunch, mate. Thanks a bunch.
No, you're welcome.
That's all right.
Anything I can do to help.
Absolutely. Dave Fleming says, "I love the fact he has an IPMS magazine." That's Dave throwing some passive aggressive shade there. I was a member of the IPMS at one stage. I don't know why I'm not a member of the IPMS anymore. Anyone from IPMS answer that? Well, I don't know why I'm not a member. Scale Water Hanger say, looking forward to Eduard producing US Navy subjects as I love them. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I know some people are saying they'd like to see a Dauntless from Eduard to that level of detail. But like I say, I'm thinking I wouldn't mind seeing a buffalo or a kingfisher. That'd be nice. In fact, I know we end this show usually with us going on waxing lyrical on things we think are missing as model subjects. But I was thinking the other day, do you know what? Actually, somebody like Special Hobby to do a really nice Fort Kingfisher in 72nd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a duck.
Yeah.
A duck would be nice.
Nice duck will do. But yeah, it's I was looking at when I was building their little Nat F1 the other year, and when I was, just the presentation of that model and the
excuse me.
And I was thinking to myself, yeah, a nice little Kingfisher like this, that kind of level of fit, detail, everything. I love that. I mean, I've got some decal sheets for Kingfishers. Goodness me, how many color schemes can you throw on a Kingfisher? Really. And that's just the float plane ones. That's not including the wheeled ones that us and the Aussies flew.
They look so weird, though. Oof.
They do. Just not quite right.
It's not natural.
James Ray says Grumman Duck. Jim Aldcott says he says Kingfisher is a great idea. Yeah, I'd like it. I love a Kingfisher in 72nd and 48th. Anyway, we're going down that road again now. So right, we've reached the end of the show for this evening. So Drewe. That's a lovely ring. Any other business?
Not from me, no. No, I think we're getting a show sort of within bounds tonight.
Yeah, that's a bit disappointing. Although we could see if we could stretch it on for another 20 minutes, but no. No, I haven't got anything either. I'm just trying to have a think of... right, one of the things we were going to do this Sunday, but actually we're going to do it on the midweek show, and I'm going to do a kind of like a preview of the Humbrol second gen acrylics. So this will be a little bit of an exclusive. So we'll have a look at them on Wednesday and kind of like go through them and talk about their properties and their covering power and everything. So that'll be something good and fun to do. And I've also got some thinners to test out as well. So yeah, they've done some. They're doing some second gen acrylics. So yeah, I'm very keen to see what they're like, and fingers crossed. Hopefully, at some stage, they may look at. I'm not saying they will. They may look at reformulating some of the colours. So the two that I've said to them I'd like to see is the dark green, 30 dark green to be a proper dark green, not that kind of pea green colour. But also Humbrol 90, it just needs to be reclassified as sky.
Yeah,
because it's actually a sky in the range.
Yeah.
So do it that way. So but anyway, look, that's purely my suggestions. I'm not saying that Humbrol are going to do that. I'm saying those are the suggestions I'm throwing at them. But yeah, we'll look at these new second gen acrylics on Wednesday, and it might give me a chance then to actually get some bits and pieces together so that we can do some live demoing and stuff. So that's all I've got to say. Jim Altegart, are they true water-based acrylics? Yes, Jim, they are. So there's no solvents in them, although water is a solvent, obviously. But no, they are not alcohol-based. They're certainly not lacquer-based or anything like that. They are pure water-soluble acrylics like Vallejo and some of the current AK ones as well. So we will put them to the test. So that's all I've got.
Excellent. Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Fine. Okay.
Well, I'm not about on Wednesday because I'm on late this week. So.
Oh, well, you get to miss out. So on the fun.
See you all next week.
Well, in that case, then we will reconvene obviously next Sunday. So I'll see what I can rope in on Wednesday or do a solo. I don't know. See how it goes. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. Thank you for everybody who's watched. Sorry we couldn't include all your comments. I'm sounding like Pat Kiesel now. We're sorry we couldn't include all your comments, but we were flicking through, and we appreciate everybody who tunes into this nonsense. We'll be back on Wednesday in one form or another. So until then, as always, stay safe, stay out of trouble. We'll
Take
see
care
you soon.
all. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.